Welcome to Lesson 1, an introduction to word processing. In this particular course, we're going to be using OpenOffice as our Office suite instead of Microsoft Office. OpenOffice is an open source product, which means that it's free for all to use, and it's very similar to the Microsoft suite. So in this first section, of what I want to do is just give you an overview of OpenOffice and some of the different things that you'll see on the screen. First off, you will notice that at the top we have a series of toolbars that go across the top of the screen. You've got your standard toolbar, which is the very first one, and then underneath you have your formatting toolbar. Remember, formatting means to change the way something looks, whereas the standard toolbar is more tools such as print preview, spell check, copy, cut, and paste, those types of things. Above the two toolbars, you'll notice that you have your menus. Remember, every option in the word processor is contained within the menu. Your toolbars are just commonly used menu items that we make icons and stick out on the front screen in order to make life a little bit easier. At the very top, where it says Untitled 1 and OpenOffice.org Writer, that is your title bar. You can always tell whether or not your document has been saved for the very first time or not. If it has been, Untitled 1 will be the name that you gave it when you saved it. Otherwise, it says Untitled 1 or any subsequent number after 1. It could be Untitled 2, Untitled 3, Untitled 4. Also, you'll notice on the left-hand side of the screen and also across the top of the screen, you have your vertical and horizontal ruler, which help you to measure things on the screen as they would print when you print them out. Okay, so that's pretty much the main overview of the environment in OpenOffice. It's pretty streamlined, pretty straight to the point. Okay. Very first thing that we're going to do is very simple. We're just going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how you're going to open up a file. It's actually two ways to do it. One way is to use the shortcut on the toolbar, which is the open folder. So if I give that a click, what it does is opens up a browser, and then I can choose a word processing file that I can open up. So notice that it can open up Word documents even though that it's not Microsoft Word. If I cancel out of that, the second way that I can open up a document is to go to File and then to Open, and I get the same dialog box when I open it up. Okay. In the course, you're going to have to download this folder, Word 2003 Module 1 Data, and this is where all our working files are. But in this particular case, I'm just going to pick any file, such as Celebrate 1, and I can either double-click on the item or I can single-click and press Open, and it'll take that document and obviously it will open it up here in OpenOffice. If I am going to close the document, I can do that one of two ways. I can either use the black X. The black X closes the document, whereas the red X closes the entire program. Okay, so if I just close the document, I can use the black X, and it keeps me in OpenOffice, but takes me back out to the main page. In this section, we're going to take a closer look at the toolbars and also take a little tour of the menu itself. First off, with the toolbars, once again, just to reiterate, the top toolbar is what's called your standard toolbar, and that contains many of your tools such as opening and saving, print preview, copy, cut, and paste are these three buttons across the top here. Below it is our formatting toolbar, which once again changes the way something looks. So if you want to change the font size or the font type, bold, italic, underline, those types of things. And we'll take a much closer look at the formatting toolbar a little later in this course. One of the things that I wanted to show you is that you do have more than just these two toolbars available to you in the program. Remember, a toolbar is very much like a construction worker's tool belt. You know, if you think about a construction worker, he puts on his tool belt and the things that he commonly uses throughout the day: hammer, nail, screwdriver, those types of things all go on his belt. They're on his person. But maybe a wrench set, for instance, is something that he uses sometimes throughout the day. He doesn't put that on his tool belt. He leaves that back in his toolbox or back in his truck, and when he needs it, he goes back and he gets it. That's the main difference between toolbars, which is like the tool belt, and the toolbox, which is like the menu. The menu contains absolutely everything that you have. Whereas the toolbars themselves are just quick shortcuts to things that you use all the time. Well, let's say that you wanted to get an additional toolbar up there. If you go to View and then Toolbars, you get a whole list of toolbars that are actually available in the program. Now, one of the neat things is that in most cases, when you need these toolbars, they pop up for you automatically. For instance, you'll see one of the toolbar choices is Table. If you started to draw a table in OpenOffice, the table toolbar would automatically appear, but you can force it to appear on its own. One of the toolbars that's handy to keep on your screen that's not on by default is what's called the drawing toolbar. So if I go ahead and click on drawing, you'll notice that I get a toolbar that's added to the bottom of my screen. Now, with the toolbars, you actually have full control over these. You'll notice beside each toolbar that you have a little dotted line, and as soon as I lay my mouse over top of it, I get a four-sided arrow. So for instance, down here on the bottom with the drawing toolbar, I can click, hold, and drag by clicking on that dotted line, and I can slide that toolbar left or right. I can actually also drag it and dock it to the left side of the screen. So if I wanted it on the side of the screen, I could pull that over and I could dock it on the right side of the screen. And I can also do what's called floating. You'll notice I was using the word dock, meaning that it's sticking to either the top, bottom, left, or right of the screen. Here I have what's called a floating toolbar, which means that it's floating over top of my document. One thing about floating toolbars is that you get a little X. If I close that floating toolbar, the only way for me to get that toolbar back is to go to View, Toolbars, and then I'd have to turn drawing back on. You'll notice it returns back to its original floating position. So if I really want it docked, I need to drag it back down to the bottom, and I need to dock it. And of course, once it's docked, I can move it left or right and slide it back into position. So that's your the main things that you can do with the toolbars. You can turn anything on or off, and if it's a toolbar that you use a lot, you can dock it to the screen, put it to the left, right, top, or bottom of the screen. Here in this next section, I'm going to show you a couple of ways to navigate through your document. The first set of ways I'm going to explain using the keyboard, and then the second way I'm going to explain is using the mouse. Now, so many people are accustomed to using the mouse, and they don't realize that everything in the word processor can actually be accomplished using only the keyboard. You'd never technically have to pick up your mouse. And by using the keyboard, you can oftentimes be much faster than you are if you're picking up the mouse. I've found through my experience that you want to try and become what I call a hybrid user, where you do use the keyboard shortcuts and different methods by moving through your document with the keyboard, but you also want to know how to use it using the mouse, because depending on the situation, the mouse might be faster or the keyboard might be faster. So the first thing we need to do is I need to open up a file called Omega Corporation 1. There it is. And this is the file I'm going to use to demonstrate some of the different things that we can do. Now, you'll notice that my cursor is blinking up next to the P in the title, Proposed Solution Prepared for Omega Corporation. And if I wanted to move down in my document, instead of using my mouse, what I could do is use my down arrow, and each time I press my down arrow on my keyboard, it moves the cursor down one line. I could then use up to go up, and obviously I could use right to go one character at a time right, or I could use left and go one character at a time up, down, left, or Right. All right. Well, what if I wanted to go to the end of the line? One of the things on a PC keyboard is what's called the end key, and it's usually right above your arrow keys on your keyboard. And if I press the end key, what it does is takes my cursor to the end of the line, and home takes me to the beginning of the line, which is pretty cool. Now, this particular document is 2 pages long, and let's say I put my cursor down here in the middle of the document. If I wanted to quickly get back to the beginning of the document, I could hold my control key down and press home, and you'll notice it takes my cursor right to the beginning of the document. If I wanted to go to the end of the document, I could hold my control key down and press end, and I would jump straight to the end of the document, which is pretty cool. Now, if I did, I could do a couple other things, such as I could do control and an arrow key, say to the right, and you'll notice that I was in the middle of the word completion, and what control arrow key did was take me to the end of the word, or I could go control left and it would take me to the beginning of the word. Okay, just a couple cool little tricks to help you move throughout the document. Ones I think are most underused is the home and the end key, and control home and control end. Obviously, you probably knew you could move around using your arrows as well. Alright, what about scrolling up and down using the mouse? Well, you know you have a scroll bar over here on the right, and I can click, hold, and drag the large bar, and I can scroll up or down. I can incrementally scroll using the up button or the down button. But you'll notice there's 2 arrows down here that don't often get used, and it's what's called next page and previous page. And if I click on next page, what it does is takes me to the next page of the document. So I'm on page 1. If I go next page, it takes me to page 2 of the document. This last lesson, what we're going to do is just touch upon the different ways that you can see your document on your screen. One of the things that I like about OpenOffice is that it limits the views that you have. You'll notice if I go to view, I've got print layout and I've got web layout. Well, unless you're making a web page, you're going to be in print layout, which is what we're in by default. And what I like about this layout is it shows you on your screen the actual piece of paper and the margins and how it would look if you actually printed it out on a printer. Now, currently, if I look down in my lower right hand corner, I am at 100% zoom. Okay, I can change this zoom a couple different ways. The easiest way is by using my plus or minus sign on my slider here, and as I hit the minus sign, it obviously gets smaller. As I hit the plus sign down in the corner, you'll notice that it gets larger. And as I use these plus and minus signs, you'll notice that the percentage changes over in the corner. I can also grab and slide it. That's another way for me to be able to switch back and forth between the two. Now, if I right click on my percentage, I actually get some standard percentages. Such as 50%, I could jump to being 50%. Also, this is great if you want to jump back to 100%. You can always reset by right-clicking and choosing 100%. So you can zoom in and out of your document. Sometimes if you're in really small text, you'll need to zoom in to be able to adequately see what you're working on. Sometimes you might want to zoom out to get a larger picture of what's going on, so that when you print it, there aren't any surprises. So these tools down here are a nice way to be able to zoom in and out of your document and really see exactly as much or as little of the document as you need to see.